السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنة إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، أيها الإخوة المسلمون والأخوات، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Before we start our program, number one, I apologize that I get a little bit late for the road situation. And number two, I like to congratulate each and every one of you who is here today. You must be chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we are the first 10 days of the Hajj. And as you are at the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you get multiple rewards. One of it is you are at the masjid of Allah. Number two, your intention must be i'tikaf. Number three, you're gonna, inshallah, also putting yourself over here in order to listen the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's another reward. So you can have different accounts of collecting a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not just coincidence. It's not just being here. It's you being chosen to be here. So that's a rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if any one of you fasting also, it's another level of collecting a great reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is not one or two or three or four. You have multiple accounts of reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being here today. Coming back to our point today and going back to or reminding one another, as the title of the lecture of today was and is, inshallah, and will be about the Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam and his son Ismail ibn Ibrahim Nabiyullah alayhi salatu wassalam. So it is the story of them. It is too long. We take just a few points as a reminder and also enlighten in our road to our deen and practice our deen. So if you start with Nabiullah Ibrahim alayhi salam, who is the icon of humanity, icon of Iman, icon of the hard work any human being could make it, and sabr, and all of those things. That Nabiullah Ibrahim alayhi salam has, inshallah, we'll talk about him, but the way Allah tested him, the history we have, no one has been tested like him. As you know, he was thrown to a fire for just standing up Allah's oneness subhanahu wa ta'ala. He never insulted anybody. He never stolen anything. He never murdered anybody. He never did nothing. Yet, saying, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, was actually punished to the maximum anyone can actually punish any human being. And even that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him. And وَأَرَادُوا بِهِ كَيْدًا فَجَعَلْنَاهُمُ الْأَخْسَرِينَ. They actually planned it to the worst and most sophisticated way to burn him. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him at that point. So that one is one of the tests that he went through. The other test was when he was also expelled from his country and his people and his nation and where he born and grew up and everything. Because of what? Because of saying La ilaha illallah. Nothing else he has done. No other conviction, no other sin, no other crime, no other even, any other thing it has been blamed, nothing. So, as you know, his own father said, I would actually expel you from this country. His own father. Yet he was making a dua to his father. And you know the way that the Surah of Maryam, Allah talk about it, the way he tried to convince his father in a very nice way, with the mercy, with beloved way. And he said, Ya abati lima ta'budu ma la yasma'u wa la ma la yadur ma la yasma' wa la yadur wa ma la yasma'u ما لا يضره ولا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم واذكر في الكتاب إبراهيم إنه كان صديقا نبيا إذ قال لأبيه يا أبت لما تعبد ما لا يسمع ولا يبصر ولا يغني عنك شيئا يا أبت إني قد جاءني من العلم ما لم يأتك فاتبعني أهدك صراطا سويا يا أبت إني قد جاءني من العلم ما لم يأتك فاتبعني أهدك صراطا سويا يا أبت لا تعبد الشيطان إن الشيطان كان للرحمن عصيا يا أبت إني أخاف أن يمسك عذاب من الرحمن فتكون للشيطان وليا قال أراغب أنت عن آلهتي يا إبراهيم لئن لم تنتهي لأرجمنك واهجرني مليا قال سلام عليك سأستغفر لك ربي إنه كان بي حفيا وأعتزلكم وما تدعون من دون الله. These ayat is so touching ayat and so beautiful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling Nabiyyina Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, O Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, remember as a to console you for yourself and to get the patience and forbearing what has happened to Nabiullah Ibrahim alayhi salam. When he talked to his own father and he said, oh my dear father, why are you worshipping someone who is not doing anything for you, cannot see you, cannot hear you, cannot stand for your support, nothing? Why? All of this. My dear father, I receive from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revelation that you haven't received it. My father, and see each and every word he's saying, my beloved father, my beloved father. He's not even saying like the language of today, a, you, or whatever it is, the way the people talk to their parents. No, each and every word, showing, being so kind to his father. Oh my father, oh my father, oh my father, oh my beloved dad. He was saying that word repeatedly. Yet, his father's answer was, أراغب أنت عن آلهتي يا إبراهيم. Oh Ibrahim, hey, you are against my religion, my deen, what he called. He said, I have to expel you from the country. Or I have to actually kill you with stoning. It must be stoned. All of this. Yet he is not even responding in harsh words. He said, I leave and I absolutely leave to Allah, go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and leave you and what you worshipping beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On top of that, despite you are so harsh with me, my dear father, I'll continue to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide you to the right path. Despite all of this difficulty, he's making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to his own father. And then after all of this kind of difficulty, so that became now immigrant, go here and there and Egypt and other world. Then the other test was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him, his first son, Ismail alayhi salam, which is our story part of it today. Now he was very old and also immigrant. Not only that, Allah tested him to put his family in a place, a desert, that no neighborhood in it, and nothing there, no water, no food, no human being, nothing. Say, leave your wife and your kid over here and go on foot to Jerusalem, a place that he has to walk more than 1 month walking. Leave it there. And they have nothing. And that was, what did he give? He gave a leather of pouch of dates and a small water skin. That's it, nothing. Very touching point was, he didn't discuss the plan with his wife and the baby born. He just, after he got the revelation of Allah to go his way, this is unbearable. He cannot discuss with his family. If he talks to her, there is no logic way or emotional way that he can convince her, or he can even convince himself. It's very difficult. So he just be silent, say nothing. Then, while they were sitting, he just get prepared and went straight to the direction of Jerusalem. She said, "Where are you leaving? Are you leaving us alone? You know this is a desert place. You know we don't have any support. You don't." And he was not saying anything, and he's going to his way. Then she shouted at him, "Allahu amaraka bihada." Is that what your Allah has ordered you? This is not a human level. Absolutely impossible. Is it? And see that lady, her iman, look into her. She couldn't understand. She couldn't figure out that any human being thinking like that way. And Ibrahim by himself, he was not cruel person. He was so kind and so taken care of. And all of the, so she couldn't believe there's no other way. Unless he got a black and white order of Allah, they go. She said, "Allahu amaraka hada." Is it Allah who has ordered you to do so? And he didn't look back. As he worried, if he looked back, maybe the fatherhood and the family and all of those things will actually take over in his heart and cannot do what Allah wants him to do. So while he was in his way, he nodded his head like that way. Yes, it's order of Allah. No matter how difficult it is, no matter how unimaginable it is the order of Allah. A very old man at this age, and his own child. What kind of language, or what could we say today, someone like that? Imagine. What another amazing point was the response of his wife. She said, after she heard that he said and nodded his head, means it is the order of Allah, she said, إِذًا لَن يُضَيِّعَنَا. If that is the case, he will never abandon us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never make us lost. He will take care of us. I mean, no matter, there is no way that you see any way of help in this world. Nothing. Yet, she said, إِذًا لَن يُضَيِّعَنَا. If that is the case, the one who ordered you, he won't actually let us to get destroyed or abandon it. No. Now she stood up. Of course, they have a little thing, they had it. They eat some water and are finished very quickly. The child is crying. The child is hungry. She is too. What should we do? No phones, no letters where you told, no communication, no human being in the around. What are you going to do? So desert, mountainous. So what she did, as a human being, what she did, just climb up one of the mountains closest to her, look around if there is anything that she can see, any movement, any human being, any animal, anything, any sign of life, anywhere, nothing. She ran down, running, and then another mountain in front of her. She went there, up the other side, if she can see anything. Nothing was there. She couldn't stay, come back, run again, climb up the other one. You will never say this is a insane person. You'll say it's more than even crazy. You can say it. But you know, when situation reach up to that level, that you can understand. The child is there crying. What she see? Just stay there and see her child dying over there? No. So at least run here and there, you may see it. To the point she did running, climbing, going down 7 times. 7 times. Imagine. And then came back hopeless, have nothing. This story reminds me of a story I want to tell you. 2017, I was in Somalia. And was one of the worst drought that hits that country. So I was watering to the people, taking water trucks in different places. Give the people water. They see their animals, hundreds died here in front of me. I can see them here and there. So we're not worried about the animal. We're worried about the people, to rescue them, to save them, give them water. So I saw social media. Someone actually put himself in a suicidal, kill himself, because he got, so hopeless in this dunya. And that was not something known in that country. No matter how many difficulty people went through, the Muslim world do not know their dictionary. It is not someone who can be suicide himself, no, or herself. We don't have that. Actually, first time we have heard it was when we came in this part of the world. So I couldn't believe that. What I did, the place was over 1,000 kilometers away from me. But the story is saying this man, his children and family and all of those, he could not feed them. And so I had to run to that place. It took me, I don't know, maybe 20 hours driving, because there was no flight, nothing. So I ended up and I went to the place. And I found over there that his wife, who was pregnant 8 months, and 4 daughters, the eldest is 7 and the youngest was 2, and his older parents and his handicapped sister, all of them have nothing, and other parents. And I asked what happened. I saw the tree that he put himself, beside himself. And so I asked them what has happened. They said, we had very good number of animals, and all of them, because of the drought, no food, no water, died. And I saw them animal here in front of 100 is here, 50 here, 20 there, dead. I saw it in front of me. So, when the people going for watering and water, they used to take camels and put water on it and bring it to the family. The camels have died. So the man used to go 5 kilometers village and get the water by himself and bring it to their family. But the next day, the machine that the drilling machine that watering water was collapsed, broken. So he went back to his home, no water, his family waiting for him to have some, water. When they see the father, they think he's carrying water. He would not dare to go back. So what he did, instead of going home, he went the tree far from, about 600-700 meters far from the family. And he took his sheet and put it there and hung up himself. Instead of just seeing his children and wife, or pregnant wife and father and mother dying in front of him, he couldn't bear it. That was not right anyway. We know that. But imagine emotion when something like that come to you. Just imagine in a minute, in a second, as a human being. We had to take whole family from there to a city and all of those things. It was a very difficult situation. By the way, we were the first aid from overseas who reached that family. And alhamdulillah, we consoled them. We said, you know what? No one can bring back your father. But from now on, you will have a different life, big city, paying your, inshallah, home, and going to school and hifz al-Quran and all of those things. Alhamdulillah, that family, finally, they got their own home, and alhamdulillah. Anyway, I wanted to go through that, but what I'm saying is, see some kind of similarity here. When someone sees something like that, what are you going to do? So she came back hopeless. And she saw her son, who was pushing his legs and feet on the ground. The water came from there. And subhanAllah, see, here is the miracle. The deen of Islam telling us, do your maximum effort, even if there is no hope whatsoever. Do your effort, here and there. Even if it's nothing, just run. Don't sit and wait the death. No. Do whatever you can do. So that's why, until she became, tired, doing nothing. 7 times climbing mountains here and there, non-stop. And nobody forced her other than the situation. So when she came, she saw water. She couldn't believe what she saw. And to start, she said, zam, 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 wording like that way. Do you know what that zam means? It is the language they spoken at the time, which means stop, stop. She wanted to stop the water. There is a hadith telling us, if she did not use that word and didn't stop it, this water would have come rivers that reach all over the world. See? So she put it, the water, say zam, zam. That's where the word zamzam came from. Zamzam means stop, stop, stop in that language. That wasn't it a miracle? That's a miracle. That water up to now is running. And previously I made one time research about the Zamzam water, and I forget what it was now, but it was something beyond my imagination. I mean, how many millions of water actually reserved over there? And that's the desert, no water in it. That miracle came from that day and running until now. And it will be running until the day of judgment. Now, here, pause a little bit. Think about it. What is the takeaway of this kind of story? It's not just a story to hear. It is a miracle. Number one, when you do things for the sake of Allah, even if it is seemingly to you your own destruction, you see nothing. I mean, absolutely it's your own destruction. Yet you take the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as it is and changing nothing. It will become like the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, take care of Allah and Allah will take care of you. Exactly, that's what comes. Number two, what you learn from here is that lady who was originally a slave and from Africa and has nothing, Hajar, and her son, and nobody being with them at that time. All her actions and the action of her son, it became mu'jizatun khalidah, the miracle that is stay forever. And Allah imposed all mankind who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to visit that place. Allah made one of the pillars of Islam to visit that place. Minimum one is of his or her lifetime, one time at least, to go and do what she did, that lady. Everything that she did. You see, she didn't do that for ibadah. She did it out of desperate. But you see the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it, Safa wal Marwa. It became that's the, as we see right now. We just run over there and there is no even mountains anymore. It's been actually crashed and it became so smooth and all of that. Yet, any one of us who go there, when you run 7 times, you really sweat and you tire. Imagine that young lady climbing here and there, hungry, thirst, under the sun, all the things. So Allah made permanent place of ibadah. Look into that. Who recorded what she was doing other than Allah? It is Allah who recorded. It is Allah who revealed it. It is Allah who made it the place of ibadah, original place of ibadah. You see, she did. Nobody would say, "Oh, they were millionaire. She came from a noble family." She was a simple person, as simple as anyone. What do you learn from here? If you do such a ibadah for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, defend the deen of Islam, work very hard, and nobody even see you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put the legacy after you, and people talk about you maybe centuries to come. Take an example at this masjid. Someone took it first day. Nobody knew of it. It was, as you know, this masjid or this spot was the first place of ibadah or masjid in Mississauga. First spot. The man who bought it over here, may Allah have mercy on him, just a regular man like you and I, just did the work. Bought it. That room over there still is there. I think Sheikh Muhammad and the family, they don't want to even destroy that place or change. Just to be history, I don't, it's like become a museum, or I don't know what they want to do it. It is there. You know, I was there a number of times. Of course, I used to there, I've been there. Later on, it has only one washroom. Men and women and everybody. Just imagine. It's another few example you need to understand. One room has one washroom. And when we changed that as a place of prayer, later on when the people overcrowded, I was there. When the city gave them, not more than 25 people can gather over here and perform prayer. 25. Imagine. Think about it. It's not far from us, brothers and sisters in Islam. See, that person is not with us today. But his footprint is with us. How many millions of people benefited for that? Will benefit in the future. And few dollars, you and I, we put it over here. How long it will working, inshallah. And, inshallah, increasing reward. And each and every one of us, when we go our own qabri and when we see the amal is going and coming and coming and coming, centuries and centuries and centuries, we died, and our children and their children and their children and became ancestors for ourselves, still you're getting reward from Allah. What a great commission. So what I'm saying is, if you do work for the sake of Allah, no matter people know you or do not know you or record from you or anything, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who will take care of you. And history, later on, people who do not know you talk about your history. And read of the Sahaba and each and every one, the history that we read all the time. So this is that story. That simple family in that case. We can continue. What happened? Before I finish that story, let me go back to Ibrahim alayhi salam. Because we were talking about how many tests that Ibrahim alayhi salam went through. So this issue of Hajar and Ismail was one of them. And worse than that will come. Ibrahim becomes so old and old and old. And then later on, he came back to Makkah while his son grew up right now and becoming a man. How much he will be so happy. Very old. And the books of the history, I haven't read authentic hadith, but the history talking 120, 130, whatever it is. So, but he was very old. And then the order came from Allah, which is you have to build a house of ibadah over here. And the Quran talk about that. وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلُ رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ about there. And anyway, they built that house. That's been completed. Now it's completed as a celebration. These days, like this time, like the Hajj, the time to make a Eid. Allah said, the celebration, biggest celebration will be, O Ibrahim, to slaughter your own son. La ilaha illallah. And the sole one, you slaughter. La ilaha illa anta subhanak. And interestingly, as you see in the Quran, it was a dream even. It was not straight wahy came to him. It was even a dream. Ibrahim, he didn't say, no, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, it's a dream, disregard. No, he took it very seriously. And then he called his son. He said, يا بني إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى. Very seriously, he said, my beloved son, I saw and I was ordered through dream that I was slaughtering you. What do you think? Tell me, what's your opinion? What do you think, any one of you, if your dad, that you know he loves you, come to you, not slaughtering, forget about slaughtering, something that you never buy it, very difficult on you, even to say, listen, stop what you're pursuing in your school, and you love the school, stay with me, take care of me. Even if your dad tell you today, how many of us will say, okay, dad, I will give consideration to stay with you over my love of continuation of my future and my school. How many? Forget about your father to say, I want to slaughter you. Forget about that. The simplest thing is, you see the difference between generations and the difference between that people over there and here. The son, instead of saying, oh, Dad, are you get crazy really? Because you are so old? Or you become so enemy? Or you become, what happened to you? You've been possessed by shaitan? What's going on? Or call someone and say, Mom, come, my dad, let's tie him. He says something, otherwise he's going to kill us, actually. Nothing else he's thinking of. He didn't say all of this. What did he say? يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. He said, oh my beloved father, do what you have been commanded by Allah. You will find me to be patient, nothing else. By the wish of Allah, by the will of Allah. Insha'Allah min as-sabirin. Of course, if it's not the help of Allah, it's not something that anyone can take it. Now, it's not only that. It's not only the words. They stood up, both of them, despite loving one another, despite knowing that each and everyone need the other one extremely. The father is so old. The son has his father as a figure and as a good example for him to depart from one another into the worst form of killing. The son get killed with the hand of his father. How was the situation? فلما أسلما وتله للجبين وناديناه أي يا إبراهيم قد صدقت الرؤيا لا إله إلا الله. When he placed him on the ground, ready to take off, the knife is off the glove, and the person has been faced to death, and put it on his neck. The wahy came very quickly. Put off your hands from the neck of your son. And not only that, the number one, the congratulation of the how successful Ibrahim was, the test that Allah tested him, and his son, that number one, the word that is spoken, Allah has spoken with him. أَيَّا إِبْرَاهِيمُ قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا. Ibrahim, you absolutely 100% or 1000% you fulfill your dream. إِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instead of Ismail to be slaughtered, Allah brought a lamb. From where? We do not know. From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Said, here is the Eid, good Eid. The best lamb. That's not found anywhere. It's here for you. You got the reward, and you got the celebration, and you got the fresh meat, and you got the blessing of Allah. And both of you and your son become prophets. You deserve all good things. That's what happened. So it was another test. And what a test. Another difficult. Now, after all of the other things to come, and the marriage of Ismail and what has happened and all of those things, and we are not even touching it. But just to think about what Allah said, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا قَالَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي قَالَ لَا يَنَالُ عَهْدِ الظَّالِمِينَ وإذ جعلنا البيت مثابة للناس وأمنا واتخذوا من مقام إبراهيم مصلى. Read these ayats in Surah Al-Baqarah, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, and look into it. The way explanatory form that Allah told us. Allah said, remember of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, Nabiyuna Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, remember when Allah has severely tested Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And he got 100% each and every one. Every test that he's been tested. He got that number. Then Allah said, subhanahu wa ta'ala, indeed, I appointed you to be Imam, the leader of the humanity from today. Inni ja'iluka linnasi imama. I'll make you that. That's what you deserve now. Then Ibrahim alayhi salam was so ambitious and was so merciful too. And he said, وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي, oh Allah, how about my children and the children of my children? And people go deep down. He wanted to even include us, even here. And those who will come later on. He said, how about my children? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, despite his love Ibrahim and he wanted to bless his children, but he knows what will come later on. All shayateens will become. If make a joke and say, okay, Allah knows who is who, which I don't want to name them. And you know them. Tyranny and shayateen and all of those things. Among Ibrahim's children. Abu Jahl isn't Ibrahim's children. And so Abu Lahab and on. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't want you to say no, but He said, لا ينال عهد الظالمين. My commitment and my promise will not be given to the dhalimin, the wrongdoers. Those who are dhalimin, they cannot, although they are your progeny and your children and daughters of your children, they don't get it that. What do you understand from here? Those who are not the dhalimin, those who are good, they will get that leadership. That's what you learn from here. Because Allah talk about the dhalimin. He didn't mention all this. He didn't say, no, your children is out of the line. You see that point? Because of that, first, his two sons, and the only two sons he had, both of them became prophets. You see them, leaders. Nabiullah Ismail and Nabiullah Ishaq, both of them. And then continuing. And by the way, read the 25 prophets that's mentioned in the Quran. Look into them. You will find more than 80% it's children of Ibrahim, including him. The word mentioned in the Quran. Of course, we know there are many other prophets that haven't been mentioned in the Quran. And Allah said in the Quran clearly, مِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَصَصْنَا عَلَيْكَ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ لَمْ نَقْصُصْ عَلَيْكَ. Among the messengers and the prophets of Allah are those that we inform you on Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And there are some that we haven't informed you. It's not, do you know everyone? So I'm telling you that what Allah informed us from Adam to Nabiyyuna Muhammad alayhi salam, overwhelming majority are the children of who? Of Ibrahim alayhi salam. See the ayah that Allah said, Inni ja'iluka linnasi imama. And what you learn also over here, as equal as you love yourself to become a good person or good leader, you should worry about your own children and the children of their children. And that's what Ibrahim did alayhi salam over here. It is the Ibrahim who, in our language, abandoned his son on the desert. He's the one who asking in this one right now. It was not abandoning. You have to understand then. And read also Surah to Ibrahim, what Allah said about Ibrahim, what He said. Not only He making a dua to His children, but even when He put it at that day, He put it there. And Allah said, subhanahu wa ta'ala, what was the beginning of the ayah? وإذ قال إبراهيم رب اجعل هذا البلد آمنا واجنبني وبني أن نعبد الأصنام رب إنهن أضللن كثيرا من الناس فمن تبعني فإنه مني ومن عصاني فإنك غفور رحيم ربنا إني أسكنت من ذريتي بواد غير ذي زرع عند بيتك المحرم ربنا ليقيموا الصلاة فاجعل أفئدة من الناس تهوي إليهم وارزقهم من الثمرات لعلهم يشكرون ربنا إنك تعلم ما نخفي وما نعلن وما يخفى على الله من شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء الحمد لله الذي وهب لي على الكبر إسماعيل وإسحاق إن ربي لسميع الدعاء رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. Read these ayatis, very touching ayatis. Remember on Nabiyyuna Muhammad alayhi salam, all of these are lessons for Nabiyyuna Muhammad alayhi salam. Remember when Ibrahim said, "Oh Allah, my Lord, my Rabb, ij'al hadha al-bayt, make this house and this planet." That's Makkah. That's a desert place. Didn't have anything. رب اجعل هذا البيت آمنا, make it very peaceful. The most peaceful place on the earth. Since that time until their time, until the day of judgment, will be Makkah. Was Makkah, it is Makkah, will be Makkah. That's the dua. That's the way Allah honored Ibrahim alayhi salam. رب اجعل هذا البيت آمنا. And then, and not only that, he worried about one thing. His children become mushrikeen. That's what he worried about it. Associate someone beside Allah. And he said, وَجُنُوبِنِي وَبَنِيَّ أَن نَعْبُدَ الْأَصْنَامِ. Make us stay away, O Allah, very far from any form of shirk. And then continue. And he said, even, oh Allah, I place my family and my children a desert place where there is no life is possible in it. Oh Allah, make the hearts of the people come to it, run to it from every angle of this world. Now all over the world, from the east to the west to the north to the south, people are running to where? That place, Makkah. Everybody, rightly or wrongly, everybody wanted to go there. That's the dua. And continue and continue and continue that dua. And then, and look into that. After he praised Allah and all of those, he said, رَبِّ اجْعَلْنِي مُقِيمَ الصَّلَاةِ وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي. Among his dua, oh Allah, make me the one who established the prayer and make my children to be steadfast to the Islam and establish prayer. So that's also the way that we need to make dua for our children. And continue that story, how beautiful it is, and all of these ayatis, I live with you. So Nabiullah Ibrahim alayhi salam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him a leader, an imam for mankind. Since that, because of the difficulty that he went through, and he became so successful. And the miracle is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed him children while he was so old, and almost was not imagining whatsoever to have a children, to the point that you remember when the malaika came to him and قالوا سلاما قال إنا منكم وجلون قالوا بشرناك بالحق قال أتبشروني على أن مسني الكبر فبما تبشرون. When the angels came to him in Surah Al-Hijr, angels came to him and they say salam, and he was scared of them. He thought the robberies maybe. And they say, no, we have a bishara for you, glad tidings. You will have a child. That is the only thing he never believed. As a human being, not as a power of Allah, as a human being, he said, أتبشروني على أن مسني الكبر. At this age, I was not having a child when I was even young. This age, old age, I am so close to my qabr. Tell me anything else. Forget about that. Tell me anything else. Any other story. I could accept other than having children. No way that. Absolutely. He talked about the nature, human nature. He's not talking the power of Allah. And what the answer was? قالوا, we brought to you the truth. And don't become despair and forget it and become unhoping Allah's rahmah. What are you talking? Then he realized, if it's Allah, that's another level. I'm talking human level. He said, if that's from Allah, he said, وَمَنْ يَقْنَطُ مِنْ رَحْمَةِ رَبِّهِ إِلَّا الضَّالُّونَ. Who will become hopeless from the rahmah of Allah other than those who lost it from the right path? Who else? I would never be that. So that was another blessing that Allah has given him. As an imamhood and children, and his children to become messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And his, not only that, Allah said, your grandson will become children, you will see your grandson. Not only you will have a child by yourself, the child of your own child, you will see him. That's why you see many ayat, you see Yaqub. Allah said, we gave him bishara of Ishaq and Yaqub. Why we put Ishaq and Yaqub together? Because that was, you will see Yaqub in your own life. Your grandson. Hear what the Quran is talking about it. So look into the mu'jizat of that's what Allah gives subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, there are other 2 points or great, really qualities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has testified and has given Nabiullah Ibrahim alayhi salatu. No one else been given in the Quran. One was, Allah said, Inna Ibrahim kana ummah. Ibrahim alone was a ummah, was a nation by himself. Alone. Of course, what Ibrahim has done alayhi salam, his life, actually nations cannot do it. Was he alone has established it. So you know Allah testified the truth. Inna Ibrahim kana ummah. The third point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uniquely has given Ibrahim and never gave any other prophet or any other human being in the Quran was وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made Ibrahim his Khalil. And you know what Khalil means? Intimate friend, the closest friend. And he means no one like him at all, the way he has a very close relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's what he got, Ibrahim alayhi salam. All these titles. Then not only that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded Nabiyyina Muhammad alayhi salatu wa salam, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ أَنِ اتَّبِعْ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا. O Nabiyyina Muhammad, we reveal you to follow the footsteps and the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Look into that. All of this is Ibrahim, what the Quran said. Follow him. Take his deen. That's a real deen. The deen of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And ittabi' millata Ibrahim hanifa. He was hanif, steadfast to the right path. Not deviating to this side or the other side. Straight to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Despite all this, Ibrahim was worried about the qiyamah and the punishment of qiyam. Despite the whole life was jihad for the sake of Allah. He was saying in the Quran in Surah Shu'ara, وَلَا تُخْزِنِي يَوْمَ يُبْعَثُونَ يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Despite all the bisharat Allah has given him, he was crying to Allah and say, oh Allah, my Lord, my Rabb, do not disgrace me the day that neither children, nor wealth, nor power can avail and give anyone. Despite all of this, that reminds me, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Aisha said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the middle of the night, so I couldn't find him, he slept with me, but when I just at the middle of the night woke up, I couldn't find Rasulullah beside me. And as a woman, just normal, she thought he might went to another woman. So at the middle of the night, she went over here, and because she was part of the masjid, she heard the qira'ah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was standing up, and his feet was what? Swollen up. And she said, Ya Rasulullah, after he finished his salah, أليس الله غفر لك ما تقدم من ذنبك وما تأخر? Isn't it truth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven your previous and the past and everything and the future of your sin? You are so sinless, so tahir, pure, perfect. Why this killing yourself upon such ibadah? Why? Like he's hiding from the people, running to Allah middle of the night, standing, forgetting his body, the difficulty he was going through. And his answer was, Ya Aisha, awala akuna abdan shakura. If Allah has honored me, isn't He obligatory upon me? I obligate on myself to be a thankful servant to His Allah. If Allah honor me and put me up to that level, isn't it my obligation upon myself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to thank Allah? So that's part of the thank you of Allah. So here you are, that's what you see. And Ibrahim, that's Ibrahim. And then his son, the owner of Ismail alayhi salam, you see what he has done? That beside his father, and that's what the Quran talks about it. وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلُ. After they built the house of Allah, رَبَّنَا, they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أَرِنَا مَنَاسِكَنَا وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ. And the dua they made, that dua reaches Nabiullah Muhammad alayhi salatu salam. The response of that dua, that they said, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, assign for this masjid and it is community over here, someone who pure and so perfect, and teach the people the deen of Islam with wisdom, with hikmah, with all of those things. And the answer was Nabiullah Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. The dua of Ibrahim and Ismail. I want to also warn you 2 points. One of them is, some people say, or some ulama, and I worry about it, that could be a new way these days. Many people, they're trying to change the tafsir of the Quran and other way it is. Now there are voices and books and written saying the person who been supposed to be slaughtered was not Ismail. It was Ishaq. First of all, the answer is, both sons of Ibrahim were prophets of Allah. They are our prophets. We love them. We respect them. We send salat and salam on them. So making such beating over one another, that's not our way. That's number one. Number two, historically, that is impossible. Why historically impossible? Anyway, you can tell me why historically impossible? Let alone what the Quran said, but historically impossible. Yes, you're right. Yeah, Ishaq, he was not in Makkah, Aslan. Born and grew up where? Jerusalem. He was not the person being brought to Makkah and grow up and married over there and build. And the Quran talking about the Ismail, historically is there. Where Ishaq can connect it to Makkah? I do not know even he made a Hajj. And I do not know that was even Hajj at the time over there. Historically impossible even. But what is this? There are people trying right now Tribalism start even among the prophets of Allah. This is ours, that's not yours. So that's also, on top of that, the history, the Quran also talking about that. When they will be building Ibrahim and what Allah said, take care of the house of Allah, Ibrahim, and said, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا قَالَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي قَالَ لَا يَنَالُ عَهْدِي الظَّالِمِينَ وَإِذْ جَعَلْنَا الْبَيْتَ مَثَابَةً لِلنَّاسِ وَأَمْنًا وَاتَّخِذُوا مِنْ مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلًّى وَعَهِدْنَا إِلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ أَنْ طَهِّرَا بَيْتِيَ لِلطَّائِفِينَ وَالْعَاكِفِينَ وَالرُّكَّعِ السُّجُودِ. All of this talking who? Ismail straight. The Quran is there. How could be possible a alim, a shakhsi deen of Islam, switch all of this to somewhere else because of other group of political motivation, or I don't know. So that's also, be careful. So that's one clarification I would like you to keep bring your mind. The other point is, and I've seen it already, there are some places right now when they talk Ismail, they actually talking Ismail, he was not the promised son of Allah to Ibrahim. The only sole heir of Ibrahim was Ishaq. One is true. The promised person, the Quran, and the Sarah being given, that was Ishaq. Definitely, that's true. But where you get it, he was the only sole, who actually inherited Ibrahim. Do you know that word, what it means? They denying the legitimacy of Ismail alayhi salam. The discrimination is there because this lady was a slave and this one was not. Because this one was that color and the one was other color. Because we are that group and we are from Ismail and the other group is from Ishaq. Here you have to understand. Don't fall into the dirty, tribalism, politics, and not only politics, atheism actually, killing the deen. All messengers of Allah, it's part of our iman, arkanul iman, أن تؤمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر وبالقدر خيره وشره من الله تعالى. Isn't it that clear? All messengers of Allah, قولوا آمنا بما أنزل إلينا وما أنزل إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط وما أوتي موسى وعيسى والنبيون وما أوتي النبيون من ربهم لا نفرق بين أحد منهم ونحن له مسلمون. That's what it is. So that's what we need to also keep in mind. Nabiullah Ismail, Allah has praised in the Quran, Surah Maryam, واذكر في الكتاب إسماعيل إنه كان صادق الوعد وكان رسولا نبيا وكان يأمر أهله بالصلاة والزكاة وكان عند ربه مرضيا. That is a praise of Nabiullah Ismail that Allah has praised him in the Quran. And Allah said, واذكر في الكتاب إبراهيم. Nabiuna Muhammad عليه الصلاة والسلام, remember and mention the name of Ismail in the book. إنه كان صادق الوعد. The sifat and the attributes, good attributes Allah has given, is a kind of unique. إنه كان صادق الوعد, very fulfill of the promises. صادق الوعد وكان الرسول النبي. And both Allah is a prophet that Allah combined the prophethood and the messengerhood. كان رسول النبي. Both of them Allah mentioned. Nabiullah Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam. Not only that, Allah has praised him the way he took care of his family. And I haven't seen any other prophet that being given this specific praise. وَكَانَ يَأْمُرُ أَهْلَهُ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ. He used to command his family to establish prayer and to pay the zakah. Many financial, to be so generous and benefit khalq of Allah, and spiritually to establish prayer. That was it. And the bed and the house that he built with his father, Allah made the most perfect place on the earth. Not most, the soul, the number one. The number one. إن أول بيت للناس للذي ببكة مباركا. إن أول بيت وضع للناس. First house, first on the earth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designated for ibadah is Makkah. That's what it is. Who get that honor? Nabiullah Ibrahim and his son Ismail. Now, to conclude all of this story, which is very long, what I conclude over here is, and summarize it, is few points. Number one, to as Muslims to know the history of our deen and our icons, the icons of Islam, the prophets of Islam. Number two, these prophets and messengers of Allah, they reach wherever they reach the blessing of Allah because the effort they have paid. It was not just in Allah said, you are good and you get all of this. No, they went through the most difficult life for the sake of Allah. So if you wanted to reach that level, then you must stand for the deen of Islam and go through every difficulty. And if the more difficulty comes to you, the more you realize you are on the right path with the messengers of Allah, the way of the messengers of Allah. That's another point. The third point is, whatever good deeds you do it, and you think you are alone and nobody knows, and all of it is, and whatever it is, Allah will expose it, you will know that. Not necessarily you to report it to the people. The one who knows what is up and what is down and what is at the night and what is at the daytime and what will come in the future is that one who will take care of that issue, your history. You don't need to tell anybody. Allah will take care of it. So do for the sake of Allah. Whatever you're doing, the middle of the night, that's why Salatul Tahajjud is one of the best. Why? Because it is the ibadah that nobody see you except you, the Creator, the Allah, the Almighty, no one else. That what we learn. The other point that I like to include, the reason we chose that story today, it is their date, it is a timing, it is time that we're talking, all this history took place, it is this time. First 10 days of the Hajj. We should take it that. It should be right remembrance that comes to us very straight. We haven't even talked all the places, the way they went into Mina and all of those things, but just to keep in mind, Safa and Marwa is enough for you to realize. That woman, she ran here and there, and the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it there. إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله فمن حج البيت أو اعتمر فلا جناح عليه أن يطوف بهما ومن تطوع خيرا فإن الله شاكر عليم. Surah Al-Baqarah. Why? You see, those mountains, the way Quran talk about it, it is min sha'airillah, Safa and Marwa. How it became sha'airillah? That lady who was desperate ran here and there. So this is what the Quran telling us. So what I want to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who stand for the sake of Allah and stand to propagate the deen of Islam and spend all what Allah has given us through our wealth, to our, physical power, to our knowledge that Allah has given us, so our spiritual, that we use it for the propagation of the deen of Islam all over the world, wherever we can reach, through our words, through our writings, through our, being example and people see us propagating, helping others. This is what I would like to conclude, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us all and to accept our ibadatis generally and all the time, but particularly these important days. وَجَزَاكُمُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا. May Allah help us and help you and help this masjid and take care of us. صلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والسلام عليكم.
Brothers and sisters, on behalf of the masjid and all of you, I'd like to appreciate Sheikh Adam for taking time out of his busy schedule during his trip here from Halifax to be with us and to give us such a nice, informative lecture. So we appreciate that, Sheikh. Jazakumullah khairan, and we hope to see you here again, inshallah. Brothers and sisters, if you have any questions, we're going to stop the program, but if you have any questions, the Sheikh, I think we'll be around for a few minutes. You can ask him directly, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.